This is the Delicious Recap, Delicious. We usually revisit the 90s sitcom Family Matters. I am Jon Francois.
I am Ajay Vandertunt.
Wow. Why are you yourself? Have you become at peace with yourself lately?
Yes, through therapy.
Good.
No, through not therapy.
Okay. I'll take that. I'll take that. Now, before we get started, because we want to talk about Jaleel White's autobiography, Growing Up Urkel, I promised, we talked about this over text, Andrew, to read an email from a very sweet listener, maybe viewer of ours. He had some wonderful thoughts about the show. I don't know if you would mind me reading it out loud.
Let's hear what he's going to say.
Yes. So this comes from David Stephen. Oh, I love the two first names. I like that. That's like Jonathan Moses.
Very official. You would part the Red Sea with that name.
Oh, there you go. Absolutely. I totally agree. David Stevens says, "Hi, Jon and AJ. I just wanted to reach out and let you know how much I've been enjoying the Delicious Recap. I found your show last week when I needed an escape from all the election coverage, and it's been the perfect dose of nostalgia and fun. It really brings me back to a happier time." So I did want to mention something from your recent recap of Dog Day Halloween. You briefly mentioned the director, but I was a bit disappointed that I think it's pronounced Jaron Keith. And the reason why I'm saying this, Andrew, is because on YouTube, I was looking up a random public access interview where some young kid pronounces his name as Jaron Keith. He happens to also be named Jaron Keith, and he was interviewing like some politician in his area. I'm assuming this is not Jaron Keith, the legendary director, but I'm just going to borrow his pronunciation and just say that the director, Jaron Keith, pronounces it as Jaron.
I'm going to go with it. If we are wrong, please let us know. But I'm with you. I've never actually heard that name spoken until you said it. So I'm going with Jaron.
There you go. So David continues. He was a bit disappointed that Jaron Keith's legendary status did not get more of a spotlight. He is such an icon in Black sitcoms, having directed some of the most memorable episodes of The Jeffersons. 227. I'm sorry, it's 227. I was about to say 227. That sounds weird, right? It's 227.
Isn't that the same number?
Yeah, 227. Yeah, 227. The sitcom with like Marla Gibbs and Jackay.
Yeah, okay. It took a minute to register. I am so sorry. When you said 227 and 227, I'm like, isn't that the same number?
It is. I just wanted to know, like, if I was like, which one was the correct way of saying the name of the show. So I think the correct way of saying the name of the show is 227.
Yes, I've only heard it as 227.
Okay, cool. You can tell that I've never seen the show because I probably would know that. Different Strokes, Martin, and more. David says that Jaron's ability to bring out tight performances and create memorable scenes really shone through in that episode, the Dog Day Halloween episode of Family Matters, and I think his contributions deserve a little extra praise. If he directs another episode you recap, I'd love to hear you give him a shout out. Thanks for all the laughs and great insights. Keep up the fantastic work. Love, David Stephen. He didn't say love, but I want to pretend that he did. We appreciate you reaching out. Wonderful comments from listeners like yourself are always appreciated. So just want to say thank you, David.
Thank you. That's amazing. I appreciate it. And now I need to know more about Jaron Keith because on our next episode recap, I think he directed that episode.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
So. I remember seeing his name in the credits. I think he directed the episode. I've got to rewatch it for the 12th time, but I'm pretty sure.
Got it. Okay. Man, the recording order versus the episode release order is just, I cannot even keep up with it. I know that, like, as we're recording this on Monday, December 2nd, we just released season 2, episode 10, The Science Project. But, like, as we are recording, like, we're already way ahead to, like, I think we're about to approach episode 16 of season 2. So who knows? Jaron Keith's name probably will pop up at some point. David, we won't forget you. We won't forget Jaron. Jaron, if you're still alive, please come on the show. We would be forever indebted.
Incredibly. I would love to see who you are.
Mm-hmm. So before we get into our thoughts about Jaleel White's book, I just want to say quickly, I had a great time at Jaleel White's book event for Growing Up Urkel. That was at the Wilmington Public Library in Delaware on November 17th. Long line. I mean, I got there. So the event started at noon, Andrew, and I got there maybe around like 10:45 or so. And thank God I got there when I did, because it went from like 5 people at the steps of the Wilmington Public Library to a long line that just went from one street to another street. People came out. And according to somebody, people came out more for Jaleel White than they did for Keke Palmer. Like, I, and I have nothing against Keke Palmer. I think she's a fantastic talent, but geez, I mean, she's a modern, more relevant star, and I guess it just goes to show how much nostalgia means a lot to people when, you know, you have a bigger crowd for what most people might call a has-been 90s actor as opposed to Keke Palmer. So a lot of love for Jaleel. A complimentary brunch, as I was telling you on the text message. That was a nice welcome surprise as we got into the library. I think most, if not all of us, were just racing to eat all of our food so we can get a good seat to be as close to Jaleel as possible at the book event. But I know you mentioned, Andrew, that you would just be like, fuck it, I'm just going to enjoy the mimosas and all the breakfast pancakes and whatnot.
Jon, I admire you. First thing, can we go back and acknowledge that you were there at 8:45 in the morning?
No. So I stood in line starting at like 10:45, 11ish, because they said the doors would open around 11:30. It actually didn't open until noon, but yeah, about like an hour and 15 minutes before the event is when I started standing in line outside.
Okay, so you were outside of the event an hour and 15 minutes early.
Correct.
I admire you because I would never do that. I would not get there until about an hour and 10 minutes after it started. So your promptness is admirable.
All right, well, you know what? You would have missed the complimentary brunch then, because that shit starts right at noon. They started right on time with that.
See, that's another thing. Brunch? Oh my God, like you said, I would have lingered. I would have probably missed brunch and had to go get brunch at another restaurant, then go to the event.
A brunch that you would have had to pay for. Oh my God.
I mean, it's the only meal of the day, so I have to eat something.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, no, I got a good seat. I think like second row, and connected with lots of great people, passionate Family Matters fans. Especially this one guy that goes to a lot of these celebrity book events, and you know, you have that friend that likes to name drop like a motherfucker to like impress you. This was this guy. He was just like, oh, yeah, you know, the other day, like I took a picture with Sylvester Stallone and we high-fived and I interviewed him on my podcast. Like he was just like mentioning name after name after name. And I was both impressed, but I also at a certain point was just like, okay, dude, I get it, man. You're the hot shit.
Yeah. Sometimes be proud of your accomplishments. Speak your accomplishments. It's a beautiful thing. He is one of those people I may have turned to and said, like, so are you really here to meet Jaleel, or are you just getting a milestone here?
I guess. Or you're here to kill people because you're that crazy.
Oh my God, did he have a mullet?
No. He was a regular looking black man.
Oh, okay. I was like, Jon, you were almost in danger. Okay.
I mean, black men could have mullets, but no, this guy just had probably like that awkward child like Eddie Murphy pea ball afro. So good for him. If that's the look he wants to rock, then good for him.
Yes, I hope you have success in your future and your hair.
Yeah. So not only did I turn out with my delicious recap shirt, and you can find all the pictures and videos that we posted on all our socials. Just look up the Delicious Recap wherever you like to look up on social media. So not only did I show up, but, you know, there were, I mean, I remember this one lady, she had a wonderful Steve Urkel style basketball jersey with like knee-high sports socks, sneakers with Urkel all over them. If you guys looked, say on our TikTok, the Delicious Recap or at Delicious Recap, you'll see that I got to take a snapshot of this older woman who got the Urkel doll. The Urkel dog, the Urkel doll with the string on the back where you pull it and he says all those catchphrases, got any cheese? Like that kind of stuff. So I got to spend some time and get to know that woman. People showed up. They, you know, yes, there were a number of people from nearby Philadelphia there in Delaware. But it was me and someone from Detroit. I came from Vermont. Someone came from Michigan. And we drove many hours because we wanted to see our beloved Steve Urkel / Stefan / Myrtle. And boy, we did. He came out and he looked not 48 years old because black don't crack.
He is still 13 years old. That's what y'all mad.
He sounds like he's 13 years old. My God. So you and I both have seen that People magazine story where Jaleel confesses that he fucked up his vocal cords doing Steve Urkel because he's going through puberty, and when you go through puberty, you should like let shit happen, including how your voice changes. But Jaleel, like for many hours a day playing Steve Urkel, was at such a high register that it just kind of stagnated the development of his voice. So Jaleel actually told a very kind of heartbreaking story at the book event about how there was a doctor he went to see that looked at his vocal cords, had to investigate it, and pretty much told him, like, there's a strong possibility that your vocal cords is not where they should be at this point in time with you being a middle-aged man because of how much you really worked them to the bone with the Urkel voice. So, yeah, I mean, not only that, but he just had some great stories to share about his upbringing, something that you'll see in the book about, him having that deal with his parents, that if he booked a job, he gets one of anything he wants, and how he wanted so badly a Sega Genesis. So very humble, heartwarming, personable guy. He stayed after and signed free books, which nobody expected. Nobody even expected books to be handed out because we were led to believe that it was just that we were just there to hear Jaleel talk. But those event organizers at the last minute, they were just like, oh, hey, we have a bunch of books, so we're just going to give them out for free. So meanwhile, the people at the event who already paid like $30 for their book are just like, really, guys?
I can't imagine that feeling, but there is a bright side. You've had a priceless signed copy.
Yes, a signed copy. Jaleel was also kind enough to sign our delicious recap shirt, which you can also find on all the socials that we posted up from the event. And in retrospect, I felt like a fool because you know that thing that you do when you're in line to meet a celebrity and you're just rehearsing over and over exactly what you're going to say, especially when you know that you're one of like hundreds of people that they have to meet. So you have to like really get out what you want to say quickly. So I just remember meeting Jaleel and in my head being like, okay, now I say we have a podcast. Now I say we've talked to Rich Carell. You like Rich Carell, Jaleel. Now I say you and I share the same birthday. And I remember him telling me like in the line jokingly like, oh, this guy has figured me out like a Rubik's Cube. And I'm like, internally, I'm just like, oh God, I sound like such a dork right now. But, I shook his hand. I smiled. I said what I had to say. And I took pictures with him and I moved on about my day. But I was walking on cloud nine, obviously, because this guy, I mean, you know how much he means to our childhood, Andrew. To just meet him in person and just see that he's just a regular human being like us. It's like, what? This can't be possible.
You had a fangirl moment, and I'm so happy to hear that because that was awesome. And Jon, you went up there and you were organized, unlike the other people who probably burst into tears crying. So I'm happy you went up there.
Maybe. I mean, I didn't see anybody burst into tears, but I'm sure there might have been some people that lost their goddamn mind, like he was Creflo Dollar. Don't get us started on Creflo Dollar.
One of the smartest businessmen alive.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. Smart in how he brainwashes people. But anyway, yeah, so great time. I loved it. And Jaleel was great at that event. That being said, though, even though he was a great person to meet. Holy crap. Did I just lose my notes? Oh, here we go.
Oh, no.
I was going to say, I was like, oh no, because I wrote so many paragraphs about like the Growing Up Urkel book because, you're probably in the same position as I am, Andrew. You read or listened to the book on Audible a long time ago and you're trying to remember like what you liked about it and what you did not like about it. But yeah, so we're here to talk about Growing Up Urkel. Jaleel White released an autobiography of his time on Family Matters, before and after Family Matters, so on and so forth. Since I've been blabbering on, I would like to start with you, Andrew. Like, how about like throughout this conversation, we just kind of go back and forth about our thoughts on the book. First thought that pops up into your mind about what you thought about the book.
So the first thing for me, I got a free copy of the book, the audio version. so it's not signed, but I am very happy that I got to get to listen to this. So if you get a chance to listen, it's 8.5 hours long if you listen to the Audible version. And I did find a copy that uses an AI-generated Morgan Freeman voice to read it too. And I just Google searched that. But
Yeah, you told me about that. I was like, oh, you don't want to hear Jaleel's voice. You want to hear the fake Morgan Freeman.
yes, I wanted that regalness. But then I actually did listen to it with Jaleel reading it as well, because these are personal stories to him. So it was nice to hear his voice explain these scenarios and situations that he gets into the book. And it really is a good fucking book.
It is. It is. I'm going to start off with a positive because, as we had talked about over text, there's plenty of constructive criticism to talk about. But I thought it was very insightful about him growing up in the business, as well as the blunt nature of show business itself. If I remember correctly, we learned that, prior to him getting Family Matters, Jaleel was a little tight in his single digits, booking commercials. I think he booked like a Burger King commercial. And I think he made guest appearances on shows like The Jeffersons. If you see a clip of him, little Jaleel, on an episode of The Jeffersons, it's actually on YouTube somewhere. So we know that he's been doing this for quite a long time before he hit that preteen stage where he got Family Matters. And do you remember that part of the book where he revealed that maybe like around 11 or 12 years old, he got tired of acting, he wanted to give it up, and I guess his parents, maybe they were desperate, eager for income. They were like, oh, how about this? You book a job, we'll get you one of anything you want. And that lit a fire in Jaleel, clearly. Like, he eventually booked Family Matters, got his Sega Genesis. But I also wondered, in him telling me that on Audible, would it have been a good idea if the parents just kind of gave into the fact that Jaleel wanted to be a kid? He clearly wanted to just focus on basketball and just let it be at that. I don't know if you thought about that or if you were thinking differently. Like, what are your thoughts?
That situation in the book, it wasn't a big standout for me. So I re-listened to it. And when I re-listened to it and I heard him talk about he wanted to stop acting and his parents were more of a driving force to keep him going, it does make me wonder, what would his life been like had he just stopped acting? Because in the book, we hear such great stories about him wanting to be in basketball. And then when he gets on basketball teams, and it's like, there's this joy that comes up in his voice when he's reading that he didn't have when he was talking about wanting to stop acting as a child. And I see his parents in their point of view, how he explains to us of, we want you to have money to go to college. You're doing this so you can have a future, you can build a future. So I can see why they're like, let's not stop yet, and let's throw in an incentive to keep him going. But just like he wonders in the book, I wonder what his life would have been if he could just played basketball and been a normal kid.
Yeah. The passion for basketball was very clear on the Family Matters set. You hear Jaleel talk about how, directors would always expect the sound of him bouncing his basketball as he was arriving on the set of Family Matters. He played on the court on the Warner Brothers slot all the time. George Clooney was a basketball player who played along with him while George was shooting ER. So you have all these examples of like, oh yeah, okay, Jaleel has this other passion that may supersede acting at times. And like you, I kind of wonder what would have happened if the parents just kind of gave in and just let him did what he want as a kid. I love how you mentioned the parents' end goal for him going to college. God, I don't know, man. Is that a Black/immigrant parent thing? Because my parents were very much like that. They were just very stone cold. You got to go to college. Like, if you don't go to college, you are fucked in life. And obviously nowadays, through seeing many examples of people being able to make it without college degrees, people being in huge debt and unemployed with college degrees, we see that college is not the end goal. But I don't know. Did you have parents like that where they were just like, hey, boy, you better go to college or else you're a fucking nothing?
I'm very happy my parents were not like that. My parents just knew from jump, it was, you're going to get out and do something, and we don't know what it is, but as long as you're happy. But it is definitely something that other people in my extended family on both sides, it was, you go to college and that's it. And I know that's a big thing for a lot of them because many of my aunts and uncles didn't go to college. A lot of them didn't finish high school. So they would see it as like, you're not going to be the Black person in this family who stays where we are. We're going to elevate. So it's something I've seen and heard a lot in the Black community, even from the opposite sides of my family. But immigrant wise, I always wondered, is that like the end goal as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think for immigrants, it's this idea of, okay, like we already got a lot stacked against us. We're coming into America and we are already seen as the other, and we got to work twice, three times as hard to make it. And here are the sort of systematic norms that America tells you is the sign of making it. So push yourself, immigrant kid, or else you're a nothing. And it's tough. I mean, speaking as a child of Haitian immigrants, it can be tough to receive that pressure. I understand sort of the emotional energy behind it from my parents' end and sort of their worries and anxieties about me not making it into this so-called great country of ours. But at the same time, I just wish that there was consideration and empathy for the child as to how much of a weight on their shoulders you got to bear, you know?
I can see that. I mean, it's got to be hard. You get it from your family. And then in school, they don't really show you the other options other than college. So do you even feel like you get an escape from it?
Ooh, I mean, I did my time in college. I mean, I certainly wish that I did not have the debt that I had from college. It's certainly not as big as if I were to stay in private school, which is what I initially did before I did a public college. But yeah, no, I mean, I know that if I have a kid, I'm not gonna push college as if it's the end all be all. I'm gonna be like, hey, once you graduate high school, decide whatever the fuck you want to do, and I'll support you, however and whatever you do. So I'll just keep it as simple as that.
Mhm.
Yeah. But you know what? Despite whatever pressure Jaleel's parents may have put on him, I will have to say, very good parents, because you don't get a lot of good parents of child actors. Like you always get, well, I mean, for example, I mean, Jaleel referenced the Jackie Coogan law. Are you familiar with the Jackie Coogan law?
No.
So Jackie Coogan law is in reference to this child actor from way back in the day. We're talking like maybe 20s, 30s, 40s. And his parents basically were like, hey, you're underage, you don't need this money as much as we do. So we're literally just going to spend all of your money. Like they just took all of his income, and Jackie was just left broke, and I think may have died prematurely. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I may have to look into that. But I'm pretty sure the motherfucker was broke and penniless and without a clue by the time he was 18. So there was a law established because of this situation where parents have to save at least 15% of their child actor's income for them to have when they're 18, like 15%, like whenever the check comes in every 2 weeks, 15% put aside so that when the child is 18, they got something to live on. And Jaleel's mom, she went the extra mile. She saved what, 30% of his income, like 33%. So yes, the whole college pressure thing may have not been needed, but there's something that you can't deny, and that is that his parents had heart. They had heart and consideration and a care for his future as an adult.
They really did. I mean, the law itself is great. I wish it was more, though. Like, I feel like child actors should get like 45% or something. Just
Okay.
that's just in my own head. But I love that his parents, wanted to make sure he was financially taken care of and stable in his future. And then on top of that, how his mom or his dad never shared with him how much he was making up until I think he said he was 15 when he found out is another benefit to him. And you can just see the level of care that they both had for him that let him have this career, but try to maintain what semblance of childhood he could have.
Right. Now, what did you think about that part of the book where Jaleel mentioned like his introvert dad, like, or his dad more so being introverted when he was a kid and being picked on, and how he was very much affected by Jaleel being picked on by a bully in a school that he got transferred to. I think it was like a really rough and tumble school. And it got to a point where Jaleel's dad actually visited the class and confronted the kid And actually, the kid, it seemed like he was a big enough size where he was like, fuck it, man. Yes, I'm going to take you on. And it, of course, ended by Jaleel's dad kind of winning without even throwing a punch at the kid because, you can't fucking punch minors. What did you think about that part of the story? I mean, about, Jaleel's dad coming in. And actually, it got to the point where the Jaleel's dad and I think mom went into the office with the principal, with the bully and his parents, and Jaleel like literally looked at the parents and told them to like really think and consider like what it is they're doing with their child and if he's getting the education that he should be getting, because he clearly is not. He's just wasting his time just picking on other people.
He gets the second best dad ever award for me. That was amazing. I'm very happy that he did that because I would do the same damn thing, and I have for my nephews and niece. Like, you don't play with my child. You're not going to touch them. You're not going to bully them. You're not going to hurt them. And if I have to put my hands on you and your dad, it's going to happen. So I'm very happy. That's an example of parenting that I think everybody should have as a parent. If somebody is hurting your child, you don't go in there humble. Hurt that child back, not physically, but make sure that they're going to have to pay for this. And that's exactly what he did. And then when he was talking to this kid's parents and said, what is the point of your child coming here? What future does your child have? And those parents are left speechless. You have to look in the mirror sometimes. When you hold up a mirror, if you don't like what you see, you're not going to say anything. You're not going to move. You're not going to react. You're going to be confused. And that's what happened in that situation. And I'm happy that that was delivered to those parents in that way.
Yeah. Jaleel was a very teeny man. So it was just a very unfair fight for this bigger than life bully to just kind of shove him around in the classroom the way he did. What did you think? God, this thing is now viral. I've seen so many posts on Facebook about this. The Family Matters scene in which Jaleel as Steve Urkel gets a big, sloppy, tongue-filled kiss on the mouth by an adult woman. I think this woman was in her 30s. Jaleel mentions in the book that he did not see... I mean, I think he saw the kiss in general coming, but not the type of kiss that it was, which was like this older woman putting her tongue down a child's throat. And I liked how Jaleel discussed the double standard behind that. Because think about it. I mean, you have a young kid, a young boy who gets that kind of action, so to speak, from an adult woman. There's going to be all the high fives from the males like, oh, way to go, buddy, you scored. But of course, Jaleel mentions he did not feel that way. He felt very confused. He was crying in his dressing room afterwards. Meanwhile, I mean, the thing that happened to Jaleel, if you had that happen to a girl his age with a guy who is 20, 30 years old planning a kiss on an underage girl, I mean, my God, the guy would be arrested many times over. It would make front page news, all that stuff. So I'm wondering what your thoughts were when you listened to that part of the story.
When I listened to that part of the story, the first thing that I thought in my head, I was like, why are we not calling this assault? Because that's exactly what it was. Even if you don't want to go after that person legally, what he described was him being assaulted by a grown woman. So one, she needs to get the fuck up out of here. If there was a way for her to be charged for that, I would support that 100%. Because it sounds like this is a event in his childhood that has stuck with him for life. And it's done something. I hope that he's gotten the help for it. But that's crazy that even then, I can't even be like, oh, people were just not as like informed as we are now. People watched this. Adults were there in the room and nothing was done to protect the child. And it just really resonated with me that nothing was done to help him. And then on top of that, he still had to put on a brave face and ask if the scene was caught correct.
Yeah, it's insane. So I totally agree with what you're saying. I think I'm intrigued by the fact that Jaleel even said in the book, like, no, I don't want anybody coming after this lady now. I'm just telling you, like, and part of me thinks when you're telling the story. So if you're telling the story, you're making it public, and it's social media nowadays, so people can easily track down that scene. People can easily track down that actress, see what she looks like. I wonder if internally he's just kind of shoving down how he really feels, which is maybe he does want some consequences to happen. Because if not, if you're really trying to say like, no, 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 I just want to tell my story and not have this woman hurt, then maybe you shouldn't have told the story. Like, you know what I mean?
I get what you mean. I think that he said that just for legal purposes.
Mm.
I don't think it was really like I want people to attack her. I don't want people to attack her because I'm just thinking of like when I think it was Lizzo ordered something on Uber Eats and she posted she was frustrated about what happened with the delivery and
Yeah.
people started attacking that person and then that person decided to take legal action.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're going to tell the story, which I haven't seen the post, and now I need to see the post when people are talking about this, about because I mean, it's aside the incident occurring. So I think he said it because of that, but he also knew telling the story, it was going to get out to people no matter what.
Right, right. Well, another thing that caught me was, and this is maybe just a symptom of being Black in America, even though like you could be at the height of wonderful fame. Like we're talking back in the 90s, Steve Urkel, peak fame for Jaleel White, and you still see examples where he's not getting the respect he deserved. I'll just list off a few examples. So Jaleel talked about how he was, just going to a basketball game. He just wants to have a casual good time as a regular citizen. And there was word that caught around the stadium or the arena that like, oh my God, like Jaleel, Steve Urkel's here. And all of a sudden Jaleel was being pressured to make a shot. And if he makes the shot in front of all these people, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
If he makes the shot in front of all these people, they get free tacos. So Jaleel, understandably, I mean, I'm sure he was just really pressured, really nervous, really overthinking. He ends up not making the shot. And my God, the transition from the crowd being like, oh my God, Urkel, to boo, you suck. You didn't give us our free tacos. It was like, what the f- is wrong with people? I saw you put your hand to your chest. What were you thinking when you read that part?
My heart broke. My heart broke for him when he's describing that moment of being out there when he was just supposed to have a regular night out.
Yep.
And now all of these people hate him. I mean, we don't know how deep the hate was, but you just wanted to be a normal kid and then you get put on the spot and everybody loves the tacos. So now we're not getting free tacos. They're going to talk shit about you for the rest of the night.
Yeah, it is awful. And I remember him talking about being like used and he did not know until the last minute. I think some acquaintance was arranging for Jaleel and him to meet, I don't know, Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan backstage at the locker room, and Jaleel finding out not until late that like, oh, wait a minute, I'm being used as an in for this person to meet Magic and Michael. It's terrible. Now, do you remember? It was like a PSA thing that he did. He was, as Urkel, going to the White House to pitch some kind of bill to Bill Clinton. Do you remember that? It's like on YouTube somewhere.
I do remember it. I don't remember fully, but I think he was going to talk about how a bill or law is passed and then had something that he was advocating for.
Yeah. So on YouTube, I mean, you see that as like an enjoyable interaction between Steve Urkel and Bill Clinton. But of course, behind the scenes, Jaleel talks about there just being persistent delays. Understandably, Bill Clinton, busy president of the United States. But my God, Jaleel couldn't even get a dressing room. Like he just had to change outside in the freezing Washington, D.C. cold, have all these awkward passing by moments with people like, oh, hey, Urkel, what are you doing out here? And Jaleel's just waiting in the freezing cold for Bill Clinton to come by and do like what amounts to 2 seconds of a cameo. It was, it's sad because, it's easy to say from an adult perspective, like, oh yeah, whatever, you're just a kid, you can take it. But no, I'm sure his ego, his dignity, his self-esteem was pretty shot in that moment.
It had to be. And it hurts to hear that this child was constantly used by other people for them to gain more in their career, and he got nothing.
Yeah. Oh my God. Remember those Bill Cosby stories that he told?
Yes, I do remember the Bill Cosby stories he told.
So, and this is all layered. if I remember correctly, when like he was at the height of Urkel fame, Jaleel got invited to Bill Cosby's house in like Pennsylvania or some shit like that. And Jaleel used that as a great opportunity to, ask for some mentoring advice and also, get a suggestion for representation because I think he wasn't satisfied with his agent or manager at the time. And Cosby forwarded him to somebody. Not only that, but Jaleel had an idea for a TV show centered around the superhero from Fat Albert and from Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. What was that superhero called? The Brown Hornet?
Brown Hornet.
There you go. The Brown Hornet. So, Cosby gets a meeting set up for Jaleel with the president of Fox Kids. Did you watch Fox Kids, the programming blog back in the day?
They did. They had everything on there.
Power Rangers, Digimon, Batman the Animated Series. Fox Kids was lit. And a boogie came out of my nose just as I said that, so I apologize. Oh, God. Anyway, I'm an old man. So Jaleel gets a meeting set up with the president of Fox Kids, and some old has-been manager is with him. And Jaleel, like, he's just bright-eyed, bushy-tailed through pitching this idea, but little did he know that he was just being taken there so that the president of Fox Kids could fucking dismiss the has-been manager that she used to work for. Because I think it was like she used to be his assistant and he treated her terribly. And now she's just like, hey, Lou, fuck you. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. Like, Jaleel was like trying to picture all these ideas about the Green Hornet, and he even voiced the Green Hornet as a demonstration. And the lady's just like, nah, not seeing it. Fuck you, Lou. Like Jaleel was just like the awkward, like middle person whose dreams are being affected by the tension between these two adults.
These two adults. Okay, this whole scenario that he tells us about in the story, it is like the most privileged, petty crap I have ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
They literally let him pitch an entire show, build a deck to take in to pitch the show. How many people had got paid for this? How many salaries got paid? Like, you had to have an office staff. You had to have your assistant set up the meeting to do all of this just to get this man, your old boss, in an office to say, fuck you. Like,
exactly. That's Hollywood. That's Hollywood. I mean, people who are like down below in the entry level ranks who got fucking shit on, and then they're at the top and they see the people that like fucking shit on them when they're on the way down. Sometimes they just got to let that pettiness out, and they don't care who they hurt in the process as they let that pettiness out.
I can tell, because all of this could have been handled through a phone call. You could have insulted that man on the phone, but you literally had the office staff. Business meetings had to be rescheduled for this to be on your schedule if you're as busy as you said you were. Like, it's insane. But what I do love, Jaleel said something that I have only heard Black people say, and when they say it, it means you must look rough when they see you again. Because he ran into that woman again, and he said that I wasn't even mad because it looked like life got karma on her. And I'm like, she must have looked bad.
Oh my God. And I think she even apologized like many years later and said that, she treated the whole situation terribly. So good on her for apologizing there. Oh my God. I think that no, never mind. To go back to the layered Bill Cosby of it all. So the contrast between Bill Cosby's sweet, lovable mentoring of Jaleel when he was like at the height of fame to many years later when Jaleel auditions for the live-action Fat Albert movie. And I think he auditioned for Fat Albert himself, which the role eventually went to Kenan Thompson. And I think he like cold called Bill Cosby about the role. And Jaleel described Cosby just like being this fucking angry, ranty old man out of nowhere. Like, what are you fucking calling me for? Oh my God, who are you? Like, and it just, it goes to show you, I mean, Hollywood will eat you up and spit you out. I mean, if you're hot, you get treated like a king, but if you're not hot, you get treated like fucking trash. And Bill Cosby treated him like fucking trash at that phone call when Jaleel was thinking that, oh, this is like my old mentor, this is my old friend, and maybe he could help me out. But no, he just treated me like I was some dirt.
When she was talking about how they met the first time, and Bill Cosby's so nice, welcoming, And he was specifically talking to Jaleel, even though he knew that this, I think it was a friend of his mother who took him to Bill Cosby house, and she was trying to get a connection with Bill Cosby.
Right.
And Bill Cosby was like, no, I'm going to focus on Jaleel. And then to hear the juxtaposition where it's like, you're talking to him like he's just some random stranger who's calling you about this movie that you're filming. It was like crazy. But the thing that, again, there's another silver lining here that Jaleel brought up in the book of, maybe it was the universe guiding me away from these bad things, because look at where Bill Cosby is now.
Yeah, I mean, not in prison still as he should be. He did get out, but yeah, I think it's safe to say that at 87 or 88 years old, he's done. Nobody's gonna want to hear from him or work with him ever again. So yes, karma did work well for Jaleel. Let's see, what else did I? Oh my God, it seemed like this motherfucker had many close chances at like increasing his fame. Remember when Jaleel had a meeting with Jim Carrey's manager in like the mid-90s? Now, if you want to have a meeting with anybody, it's going to be a meeting with the manager of who was the biggest movie star at the time. Like, think about it. Like, this was like 94, 95 when Jaleel had this meeting. And this manager is representing Jim Carrey when The Mask, Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber came out. Jim Carrey was about to do The Cable Guy, and he made news for making like $20 million off of that movie. No other movie star made $20 million until that point. So Jaleel kept getting questions from the manager about like, oh, well, like, how much are you making? How much are you making? And if I remember correctly, the mom just kind of stepped in and said, no. What's this personal business the manager's trying to get us up on, trying to figure out how much we make? I don't trust this white man. And I just kept like, putting my hand on my face like, yeah, okay, mom, I sort of understand you want to be overprotective, and because there are a lot of sharks in Hollywood, but look at the facts that this is Jim Carrey's manager and that he could take Jaleel to heights that you would never even believe for a child actor. So I don't know if you were more on Jaleel's mom's side or more on Jaleel's side in terms of like, fuck, what could have been with this manager.
I'm definitely more on Jaleel's side here. Like, I get being a parent and you're like, I want to protect my child. But this isn't like some rando off the street. This is somebody who has a proven record of their work in your face telling you, hey, this is what we need to elevate his career. And you're more focused on, well, why do you need to know how much money he makes? Sweetheart, you're talking to somebody who has millions and millions and millions of dollars. Yeah. So just telling that person how much you make, what are they going to do? Steal from you when they already can outpace you? That doesn't make sense to me. So I felt so bad because I'm like, who knows where his career would have gone. And in that moment, he does start to reference how he was playing Sonic on the Sonic animated series. And this could have been something amazing because who's one of the biggest stars in Sonic right now? Jim Carrey.
Ironically. And that might have been the last movie that he did, Jim Carrey. Yeah, when he played the villain. Because I think after that, Jim Carrey like did interviews where he essentially said like, "Oh, I've done enough. I am enough. I'm going to retire from the business." So what a way to go out as the villain from Sonic the Hedgehog.
Right. The Sonic 3 movie is about to come out, and he's Eggman again. I'm going to watch it for Jim Carrey because it's freaking amazing.
Is he in that movie?
Yes.
I thought he was. I thought he was like essentially out of the business. I didn't know he was still Sonic 3. Let's see. Oh. I think you are right. Hold on. Oh my God. Fucking Wikipedia. It's like pointless to go to Wikipedia anymore because they always have that big banner that interrupts what you're there for, which is like, Wikipedia still can't be sold. Donate now or else we'll go away.
I have not opened Wikipedia in years because I hated that pop-up.
Yeah, as you should. Hold on. I'm looking at the cast. Yeah, you're right. Holy shit. Yeah. Wow. That's so weird because, yeah, I mean, a few years ago, Jim Carrey was like, oh, I'm done. I'm retired, blah, blah, blah. But
and then he saw that Sonic money. He saw that Sonic money. After the first movie, he saw that Sonic money and was like, oh, this is a thing.
Or he might have filmed
he's in the third now.
Or Sonic 3 might have been filmed before he made that so-called retirement announcement. I don't know. No, you think you saw that Sonic money?
I'm obsessed with this movie. I know everything about it. He did not say that before after this. He literally was like, I'm done acting. And then he saw those Sonic checks and they said, we're making a third movie. And he said, sign me up. He is back for that.
There you go. So Jim Carrey, December 20th, 2024, Sonic 3 in your theaters. Yeah, so that was sad. I mean, what could have been with Jaleel working with Jim Carrey's manager in the mid fucking 90s. When he pitched a TV series to Will Smith, and it seemed like a very interesting, complex idea, and then it didn't go it didn't go anywhere. I forgot like why it didn't go anywhere. But that's what ended up with him getting that short-lived UPN series Grown Ups that lasted like one season, where I think he's like pining after a girl from like high school or some shit like that. It was just a dumb show idea. According to him, he just wasn't completely sold on it. And then he did a web series that I remembered, like back in the 2000s. It was called Fake It Till You Make It. I remember seeing this on like YouTube or whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, look, good for Jaleel, like finding a nice way to stretch past their Urkel identity. And he played like some hotshot agent or manager or something like that in that show. And what I didn't know was that like the numbers and the reputation was so good that Hulu decided to give it a chance at a time before the streaming phenomenon. And when the subject of like, oh, can we get more episodes and can this show last longer on the Hulu platform, there was some issue with funding, like funding it for a sustainable period of time, that blocked it from happening. And now here you go. I mean, you know, fucking Hulu, Netflix, all these original series that are essentially the modern equivalent of what we used to call a web series back in the day. It just made me sad for Mr. White. I was like, shit, you could have got in on this fucking streaming cash cow.
Right. I mean, my Netflix special comes out next week, just so you guys know.
Oh.
It's that easy to get on Netflix. I wish. I like truly wish that they could have done more. Which, like, even when he talks about it in the book, how they didn't have the funding for the show to continue onto Hulu. And he's like, I could have just gotten the loan or paid for it myself. It's like one of those things. It's like, damn, I really wish that this Hollywood scene, which seems so hard to navigate, wasn't so hard to navigate, because you got people who feel like their dreams weren't fulfilled, but then also people like us who consume the content, we're getting cheated out of it for no reason.
Yeah, true. Now, I'm sorry to sidetrack, but you got me hooked on the idea of what like your Netflix special would be. So I'm imagining something called Vandertunt Unlocked. Now, would it be like a very honest, raw stand-up comedy special where you just get into it and you might offend some people, maybe Trump supporters? Or is it going to be like a fucking docuseries where, like, as the slideshow of all the Netflix things come by, we see just you, like, with your glasses off and close-up of your face, and you were just, like, in that dramatic, like, thinking pose? Like, what kind of Netflix special are we going to get?
Okay, so cover art is going to be me almost like Steve Jobs. Very serious, very controlled. And then when you get into the special, it's going to follow me on my stand-up tour, going state to state with little snippets intercut of me doing just candid interviews with the camera.
Yeah.
It will be incredibly offensive. It will probably offend multiple people. And I'm just going to say I don't care because I'm on Netflix.
There you go. Please just have at least one moment where you are so fucked up in some personal shit that you just are just cursing at the documentary crew. Like, get the fuck out. I need to go to the bathroom. Just leave me the fuck alone.
Yes, it's going to be a moment where I'm in Macy's, or no, we're going to be in Tiffany's. And I'm going to have this freak out like, leave me the fuck alone. Get the cameras away. And then when I say I need space, I'm walking to the register to go buy items.
Okay. Oh, I love that. I think my last point, and please, I mean, if you have any additional points that you want to make, please let me know. I mean, we gotta talk about it. That chapter where Jaleel just wants to reignite tensions with some Family Matters castmates. And I think appropriately enough, the chapter was it called Entitled Little Shit?
Yes, it's called Entitled Little Shit.
And I'm like, wait a minute. That's ironic, like, because you do you know that you're acting like an entitled little shit in the chapter called Entitled Little Shit?
I hope that that's why he named it that way, and I have the faith that he did, because this is a very interesting chapter, so I hope that he's realizing, like, maybe I did act like an entitled little shit when we start talking about the stories that are in there.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so he acknowledges that Reginald Veljohnson, Marie Payton have said that he's difficult to work with. But what I don't like is, and instead of saying, okay, I hear you, that's your experience, and here's my experience, he dismisses their experience. You know what I mean? And I think there's a big difference. I think there's a difference between saying, okay, I'm sorry that you had that experience and here's how it was from my point of view versus, well, that point of view is just wrong and twisted and here's the right point of view. I think Jaleel took that latter thing. He said, all right, Jo Marie, like, she calls me difficult to work with, but look who was late to every read through. And multiple thoughts going on in my head. And I'm like, first of all, I was just like, Jo Marie, my black woman, that is such a black woman thing. And I love you for it. Yes. What was her excuse? I think she would often come in and be like, oh, I'm sorry, there's so much traffic. My Mercedes got like bumped into the curb somewhere. Like she was always giving excuses. But yeah, we probably know that she was just running on black people time.
Now, so this story here, I have to organize this because I had a lot of thoughts here.
Yeah, go ahead.
The first thing, the way he talks about other people when it comes to these scenarios with Jo Marie Payton, with Jaimee, and it just how he talks about the people almost very dismissively, like, well, they're just fucking idiots. Is kind of what it sounds like when he describes how they feel about a situation. And it's like, well, hang on, because you aren't coming out on the positive end here either. And I think we're not acknowledging that. Now, when he tells the story about Jo Marie, how she was late to the table read as she walks into the room holding her passenger side mirror. I'm very laughing because it's funny, because the way he describes it, she walks in very entitled. She's got all of her makeup on, sunglasses. She looks decked to the nines with this mirror in her hand, and then tells the story about, I'm late because my mirror came off, so I had to drive back home and get my other Mercedes, as opposed to just like, hey, I'm sorry there was an accident, I'm late. It was hilarious to me. But that gives me like, Jo Marie, you are a queen, and I love you for it.
Literally, you are a queen, divorced 3 or 4 times. Like, honestly, yes, you can make a factual assessment that you got to be on time. You got to be professional. But I think that you and I are both so in love with how Jo Marie just owns herself that we're just like, yeah. I just look. I was just on the side of like, Jaleel, you're sounding like you are responding to Jo Marie's concerns about you with petty passive aggressiveness instead of just saying, okay, I hear her and I disagree with her, and here's why. He was just like, well, I'm difficult to work with. You were late at read-throughs. Who else is difficult to work with now? It just felt like it was a game of cat and mouse that 2 mature adults should not be playing. I don't think Jo Marie has responded to this, and if she doesn't, that's great. That's classy of her. But yeah, no, I mean, just kind of to go back to your point, I mean, just kind of like dismissing Jo Marie and Reginald's opinions to, oh, they're old and we did 215 episodes. There's no fucking way that we wouldn't have got along over the course of that long period of time. There's no way I could have been difficult to work with if we managed to have all these great memories together over 9 years. I mean, it's just, the other part of it is you guys work together for 9 years. Not every day is going to be perfect. I mean, there are going to be days, especially you, Jaleel, being a teenager who's the star of the show, like, your ego is probably going to get the best of you some days and you're going to be an asshole. And that's okay to say that. Like, oh, some days I probably was an asshole. Some days maybe I wasn't so much an asshole. So I think making himself seem like this very, well-to-do, polite person, always did good, always taught manners by his parents. Yeah, I don't know. I think it kind of feeds into the above it all ego that some of his detractors are kind of saying about him.
Yeah, it does. And it's one of those things. Like you said, we all have those moments. You have moments in your life where you're going to be a jerk. You're going to be an asshole to people. That's human nature. These feelings and emotions that you have, We all have them. But if you're going to talk about a situation and you're going to rehash it technically, even though the other party isn't there, like you're doing in this book, it is your responsibility in a way to say, hey, I heard this person's point. This is mine. And like you said, acknowledging, moving on why you don't agree with it, not bringing up a scenario to be like, haha, it's tit for tat, and you didn't have receipts for it. So I can't acknowledge that.
Yeah. And also, I was thinking, especially in terms of Jaimee, like, this is backstage drama that we've heard before. Like, we've heard it on the Dark Side of Comedy. We've heard it on a People magazine story. We've heard it on an ET headline. How does he think bringing it up again is going to benefit him in this book? I have no idea, especially Jaimee. Oh, my God. Let's talk about Jaimee. Poor her. Poor Jaimee Foxxworth. And she handles it like a champ, by the way. She and Tyron and their other sister, whose name I can't think of, I apologize. They did a podcast a while ago called The She Show, and they did an episode called Bully on the Set, where Jaimee responds to some interview that Jaleel White did where he was, again, trashing her. And she made it clear that that was the last time she was going to say shit about him. And she really goes in on him about how she felt she was treated by him during those Family Matters days, and she left it at that. So Jaimee, in response to this reviving of the Jaleel-Jaimee beef in Jaleel's book, she posted a link on her stories on Instagram of the Bully on the Set episode to reiterate, like, hey, this is how I feel. I've said my piece about Jaleel, and I'll leave it at that. And like I told you, the icing on the cake was her posting the story to The Sounds of Euphoria from Kendrick Lamar, which, of course, is one of the most famous diss tracks of all time.
It was a beautiful moment, Jaimee. I love it. I totally respect that she doesn't want to talk about it anymore. And I think I was saying to you, I feel like this is a part of the book that was there because it would be needed in a way for him and his story and dialogue from what we've seen in interviews. If he didn't talk about the elephant in his room, which is the situation with Jaimee, I would have felt a little weird. And I don't think this book would have been as successful without these moments where it's like, ooh, the messiness, let's talk about it.
Yeah, you know what? I can understand it in two ways. I can understand how talking about the Jaimee drama could be a great selling point. It's certainly gotten people talking. Like, you've had Family Matters fans that have been in support of Jaleel, and then you've had Family Matters fans that are saying "fuck you, Jaleel." Like, why are you taunting Jaimee like this? So it's gotten people talking, and what gets people talking is what could sell books. So I agree with you there. I think just from a moralistic standpoint, I just wonder, my guy Jaleel, like, you've already talked about her enough. She clearly is on a lower stature than you in terms of fame. So it almost feels like going back to the big size bully picking on little Jaleel back in his school days. It almost feels like that, where it's like, look, Jaime's trying to live her private life. She's not where you are, where you're still in the business, you're still active. So to keep picking at her like this, in my opinion, doesn't seem just. And let's just kind of break down what was said. So I think Jaleel blamed Jaime's lack of success on Family Matters on the management from her mom. He went for the mom. Don't you fucking talk about somebody's mom. Hello.
He did. He went after her mom, talking about the way she was, how she showed up to set, how she dressed, all these things that had no significance to what the real issue was here.
Yeah. I think the mom's name is Gwen. She stepped in at one point and told writers and producers, like, hey, Jaimee is in this little amount of scenes. Jaleel has this amount of scenes, much more. He got into the show much later. Jaime's been there from the beginning. What the fuck is happening? So I think Jaleel was talking about it from the point of view of, like, this mom was just overstepping, and she's coming in with her Mercedes and this and that, and she's got nothing much to show with it through her daughter's talent. And there was also the topic about Jaime's failing grades. I believe, Jaleel was saying that Jaimee was at a certain point just not in a good frame of mind, not doing well with her school grades, and that could have been a leading reason to why she was fired after season 4. So I can only imagine, if Jaimee has listened or read the book, how she felt by having that reminder, if that in fact is a true fact of her having failing grades. And when Jaleel was talking about how Darius McCrary would often just boast loudly, vocally on set about his female conquests, and how Jaimee would just be like, "Oh God, Darius, you nasty, stop it, Darius," and how funny Jaleel found that. And he said in the book, like, "Oh God, man, if only Jaimee was that funny on the show, she would have stayed on the show." And I think to him, he sees that as a compliment, but to me as a listener on Audible, I'm just like, no, I think I think it's, what do you call it? A shit sandwich? Is that a shit sandwich?
Yeah. That's one of the biggest backhanded compliments I've ever heard. Not only did you insult her acting ability, you insulted the fact that she's not herself on camera when she's trying to be authentic. So I was like, yeah, this is okay. Let's go. But what it feels like to me, the entire conversation he has about Jaimee, it sounds like, and I'm not a mental health professional, y'all, so I can't like claim anything like that, but it just sounds like you're experiencing an event that you went through in your childhood. We're getting your side of it, and then you're doing the same action that you felt like somebody was doing to you. You're repeating the cycle, even in the book now, when you're punching down, essentially.
Right. So honestly, who knows who's telling the more truer story? I don't know. All I want is a kumbaya moment for people to stop talking shit about each other. It's 35 years later. If there's a moment where Jaleel and Jaimee could just make up and hug it out, that would be great. But God damn it, Jaleel be talking shit. And have you listened to the Bully on the Set episode of the She Show?
I did. I listened to the Bully on Set show. I actually listened to that after I watched the Dark Side of Comedy episode.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I may be leaning more toward Team Jaimee, which is just like, hey, Jaleel, like, why? I've done nothing to you. Why are you bothering me? I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's just move on. Why do you keep bringing this up? But the man, like you said, I mean, the man has got to sell books, and maybe that's what went into his mind. It was like, you know what? This is what people want to hear. I'm going to try to sell books, and this is what I'm going to talk about. So that was my last point. Are there any other points in this book that stood out to you that you want to talk about?
There are. My biggest and I think favorite moment in the book is when Jaleel talks about there was going to be a reboot of Family Matters.
Yeah.
And this is a spoiler if you haven't read the book yet. But when he talks with this, who was it? Was it Miller? He went to dinner with somebody or lunch with somebody.
Either Miller or Boyette from Miller Boyette Productions, I think.
So one of the two I remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember which name.
That's okay. I don't remember either.
But they're at the lunch, and he is hearing the pitch from the producer of, we want to reboot Family Matters as Laura and Steve, and they're going to have a child or something in this very big, grandiose scenario, which sounded okay, but it sounds like every reboot we have right now, like Raven's Home and all those things.
Yeah.
And Jaleel had an idea for a reboot of the show following the actor of Urkel and what his life is like outside of the show, and then also being Urkel. And I would have loved that.
That would have been great.
Think of that moment.
I think it would have. I would have been great. I mean, I think Jaleel was sort of saying that Young Sheldon, which was like the spinoff from The Big Bang Theory, that was kind of an influence in his thinking like that. And yeah, I think just getting insight into Jaleel's life story while also getting that satisfaction of like, oh, okay, like this is Urkel, and we're getting little doses of Urkel here and there. Yeah, I thought it would have been a great, different idea, and he clearly thought it through, put some complexity to it. But what did the other side say? Oh, Laura, Steve, and Steve's child. I'm sure we'll figure out something. Like, okay, maybe within 5 episodes that'll be done.
It would have been terrible. Like, that was not a good idea. And I want this remake that Jaleel pitched. I think it would be amazing. So I did email the people for his team to see if somebody will get back to me, because I want to talk about this and be like, hey, let's start a petition, a change.org or something, to be like, give us this fucking reboot. That would be worth watching.
I would love that. Yeah. So Family Matters reboot, as we know, not happening, but who knows? Maybe because of this book, Jaleel may revive some interest among some studio executives.
But like that, there's one other section.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. Do you remember when Jaleel talks about going on a date and Darius is the one who picks him up to go on the date?
Yeah, yeah. And that date did not end so well, if I remember correctly.
The date ended great for Darius, but not for Jaleel. So in the date, what happens? Darius has to pick Jaleel up to go pick up this girl for a date.
Right.
Darius McQuarrie picks him up, drives crazy the entire way, has offended the girl that he's going on a date with. And at the end of the night, when Jaleel tries to get his first kiss from this girl, she completely rejects him. But the girl that Darius was matched up with, he treated her like shit, had her crying by the middle of the date. And at the end of the date, she's in his arms and in love with him.
Oh my God. And I was like, Darius.
I was like, this is the real version of Family Matters that we're watching, or at least hearing him act out for us of a real life scenario.
Yeah, yeah. The background actor, Rob Rasner, who we had during our season 1 recap process, I remember him talking about like, oh my God, Darius was the hot shit with his outfits and his like, I don't know, fucking black Mercedes or whatever. Jaleel has mentioned both at the book event and in interviews how like he was just stunned at like how Darius at 14 years old was able to drive with his mom in the passenger seat to the Family Matters set looking fly. And also just the shocking revelation that they're only 6 months apart in age when, you know, you clearly look at the show and it's like, oh, Steve is in middle school. Darius is like a senior in high school. But no, they're only 6 months apart. And, you know, one had a quick growth spurt and the other had a very slow growth spurt.
Right. It's insane just how close in age they are. And then in the date, the part that blew my mind is that they were able to just order alcohol like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody cared that they were kids, and you knew they were kids.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, speaking of which, I don't even know if that was the same night. Was that the same night that Jaleel was talking about where he like fucking just forked over his Amex and he was just saying like, oh yeah, go fucking shit crazy at the club with the drinks and blah blah blah. And the Amex card did not go through correctly. Maybe he just didn't know that he didn't have much money or some shit like that.
I think it was that night.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, because they bought sushi and everything, and he had to pay for all the sushi.
Right. Yeah. Well, the things you learn as you grow up. Well, what else you got?
That is it. Those are those last 2 points. Everything else that we talked about, this book is phenomenal. Read it if you want to read it. Get an audiobook. It's good.
It's a really good read. So it's once again called Growing Up Urkel. Look for Jaleel posing like a sexy Michael Jackson from Thriller or Lionel Richie with his white suit, and I think he has spare chest out in the open.
He's got a little deep cut in the shirt. It's very 90s romance novel.
Yes, it very much is. I listened to it on Audible when I was door dashing. However, I have to make time to go through the book just to see the pictures. That's always my favorite part of a celebrity autobiography, is to see like all the behind the scenes pictures of, you know, because, you know, look, I mean, you probably saw a taste of it when you were first opening up Jaleel. Well, actually, no, you only listened to it on Audible. You don't have a physical copy.
You don't have a physical copy. I didn't know there were pictures in it, so now I've got to go get one.
There was a lot of pictures. So you open it up and all of a sudden it's like, oh, Jaleel with Denzel, Jaleel with Michael Jordan, Jaleel with Magic Johnson. I mean, just all the celebrity greats from the 90s, Jaleel White has met. And to go back to his sort of stubborn point about how, oh, me and the Family Matters cast members always got along. I don't know what the fuck Reggie and Joe Marie are talking about. He has mentioned over and over how much he bonded with the cast during the Paris Vacation episodes in season 8. He had mentioned that it was like a groundbreaking thing, that we were like the first Black show to film in Europe, and that there are pictures in this book of him chilling with Reggie and Darius, having a good time. We, as the audience, probably didn't have a good time watching that episode, but hey, you know what? The cast members had a good time. That's all that matters.
You know, as long as they have fun, that explains why we got those episodes. The cast was having fun. Everything else was not fun.
Yeah, they were too busy being lax and just being like, yeah, okay. And then they forgot they had a job to do. Oh, boy. Season 8. God. Judy Winslow Matters on Instagram, one of our super fans, she said, and I quote, well, I'm biased, so everything after season 4 to me, I don't like, because that's when Judy is gone. But she stressed that season 8 is a mess. So get ready for that.
Yeah, I'm still in anticipation for it, but I've had to jump ahead and watch some of those episodes to take things from, and it's so hard, y'all. It's so hard.
Yeah, yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait. All right. So growing up Urkel, Jaleel White's memoir. Please go listen to it. I've reached out to Jaleel myself to see if he would come on the show. So we'll see if that happens. I mean, look, I mean, we don't have as big an audience as some of the other platforms that he's been on to promote this book, CNN, The Breakfast Club. So we may not get him on, but it's nice to at least be able to ask. And we hope that, if he does listen to this discussion, that he respects the fact that it is a layered discussion in which we can both be a fan of him and also say, hey, we're not so crazy about this part of the book.
Yeah, it's all we can do is offer somebody our own honesty. And that's what you're going to get. You're going to get our honesty, our opinion of what we feel. And I hope that, before I hit 40, when we get to season 8, you do come on the show.
If he's still alive, if the world is still alive, if America is still a country, goddamn. If we can muster it, Family Matters, it's the type of show where, if we don't pace ourselves, it could burn out on us pretty quickly. So we'll see what happens, and we will hope for the best. I want it to be a mission that we get through 9 seasons of this goddamn show.
At the end of it, if we make it to the end, who knows? Who knows how big it could be by that point? Right now, we've got our dedicated listeners. I love you. Future listeners, I love you, and you don't even know it yet.
There you go. Love it. All right. All the social medias, y'all. Find us. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, Threads, Patreon. Search The Delicious Recap. We have that photo of Steve Urkel, Living Single cast, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air cast. By the way, speaking of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the Will Smith autobiography, great listen on my way back to Vermont from New York City. Highly recommend that for you guys that want more of that 90s nostalgia shit. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that good shit. Andrew, how can people follow you?
You can follow me on TikTok at Ajay Vandertunt. You can also follow me on Blue Sky at Ajay Vandertunt. Join Blue Sky. It's amazing. It's everything that I wanted Twitter to be, and it's not Twitter. And when you post something, it's called a skeet, which is, I love that.
A skeet? I feel like I've heard that term before.
Because it refers to...
Tweet.
No, it refers to come. The little, what is it, from the window to the wall?
Yeah.
It's skeet that they're talking about, but for some reason on Blue Sky, they decided to call their posts skeet. So,
Jesus Christ. I can remember hearing that fucking Get Low song all the time throughout middle school. I just thought, skeet, 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 skeet. I thought that was just a playful word. Who the fuck knew that was a radio-friendly way of saying semen? I didn't even know what semen was back then. So, of course, I'm just like, okay, skeet, 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 skeet.
Yeah, all of us who heard the song as kids, we're like, oh, skeet, skeet. This is a cute little word. Until I found out, and I didn't find out until I was almost 30. I was like, so I was saying that in school?
Come. Oh, God. And also, there was another line in that song, and all me, like the dirty version is, and all these female fuckers, like hearing the dirty version for the first time 2 or 3 years ago, it just sounded odd to me because, again, it was like, oh, this is not what I heard on BET as a music video. This is not what I heard the DJ play at the 7th grade dance. Like, my eyes have been opened.
Yes, we got the Kids Bop version of rap in those days. And when I heard the uncensored songs, I was like, what? This is completely different. Now, of course, I wasn't ashamed because the uncensored songs are bops. They're amazing. Yep. But absolutely. This was not meant for kids, even though it was marketed to us.
Shame on Lil Jon and the East Side Boys.
Should be. But I do also want to say, as far as social media, thank you to the people who listen to the podcast who followed me on TikTok. I am officially in the Creator Rewards program now because of your help. So I appreciate that help that you guys have given me.
All right. Wonderful. We appreciate that. All righty. And maybe we'll be on Blue Sky at some point. I don't know. I did see a Hollywood Reporter story about Blue Sky being the new thing that people are going to now that everybody's flocking the Elon Musk X. So I don't know. Maybe we'll try to get there as Delicious Recap. Set up an account for us, Andrew, as Delicious Recap.
as I explore it more, I'm going to set us up an account because it's very, very fun.
There you go. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, by the way, but speaking of Patreon, patreon.com/delicious recap for $5 a month, early episode recaps, early access to interviews as well. Yeah, patreon.com/delicious recap. We want your money. Thank you for the couple of people that have subscribed to us on Patreon. We appreciate that, and we want more. We want more.
More, more, more. We are hungry for more.
Absolutely, absolutely. You the way you said that, it's like you want some skeet, 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 skeet.
I want ramen noodles.
That sounds like a very comforting treat this late at night. I like that. But I think that's it. All right. You want to give us a little deliciousness ring sign off?
Yeah, you know, because we talked about a book today. You have to tell you guys, books are delicious to read, but if you do decide to eat paper, that deliciousness ringing in your belly, go to the hospital.
Okay. All right.